From the great state of Texas, you are now listening to Skip the Noise Podcast, a Rounded Edge Media production. Thank you so much for joining me. It's just Benji's another solo mission on a pre-birthday. Birthday's tomorrow, so today I'm actually off. I have to work tomorrow, so I'm sort of, I guess you could say, celebrating my birthday one day before. But Mexican Nostradamus and Brown Python are not with me. I think we are going to record a regular program either tonight or tomorrow, but I had a little time on my hands, so I thought I'd check in via live stream. Might cover a couple of news stories depending on what happens, but I did want to recount. I had a very interesting encounter with Synchronicity today. So yesterday, knowing that I was off today, I had planned to go down and grab me some coffee at somewhere I'd never been before. And I live out in Cyprus, so I like to make it down into town whenever I can. So I'd actually messaged a friend of mine to give me a recommendation. Man, I want to try something new. I've got a little bit of time to kill. I'm going to be down there in the morning anyway. So that's what I had in mind. So he never got back to me. So I just decided to pick a place on my own. Surprising enough, I'd never been to Boomtown Coffee on 19th Street down there in the Heights. So I went down there, grabbed myself a cup of coffee, sat out on the seating area outside on the sidewalk. And lo and behold, a friend of mine walks right by me that I haven't seen in over 10 years. So it was a little crazy. And I talked to him for quite a bit. Or, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And some interesting things came out of that conversation that may hold some weight in the future. So that was pretty interesting. Eric joins the live studio. Eric, how are you? Lo and behold, Eric pops in. What you got going on today, Eric? As I continue to tread water a little bit and see what we can possibly get into, there was a story that came across. Oh, and by the way, Boomtown Coffee. I can't believe I've never been there, but that is a 5-star type of a thing. Eric wants to call in. Eric, you tried to call in, then I kind of lost the. You try that again. Here we go. All right. So here we are, a couple minutes in, taking a call. Eric, what's going on, sir? What you got going on?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. What's on your mind?
Happy birthday to you, my friend. Not a whole lot happening. But I mean, had like kind of a busy afternoon, working on booking a guest for the Slightly Serious Show podcast that I'm active on.
Very good. Is it an interesting guest? I hope so.
It is going to be a previously featured guest that we had on last year, that pipeline welder gentleman, Neil Crabtree. I think you'd really enjoy him.
Okay, well, I'll have to tune in and check it out.
Next Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:30 p.m. Central. I was looking into previously getting a gentleman that had a really interesting viral video on TikTok who is an attorney here in Georgia, but when I talked to him today, he regrettably kind of had to back out for a lot of reasons, because he didn't want to really kind of compromise himself in any way.
Didn't want to compromise himself. What was he worried about? Legal ramifications?
I would think something along those lines, because he posted a viral video about how being offered money to do a smear campaign video, and
really?
and I think the video in question just really went viral. I would have to tell you off the record who the gentleman is.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty interesting. He got who approached him for this smear campaign?
I think it was some sort of organization that they were offering to pay him $400 to do it under certain stipulations. But it's on TikTok.
Okay. Would this be? How viral are we talking about?
It's gotten plenty of attention on social media, and I think thousands of views and shares and likes.
That's good. That's pretty significant. Wish I could say anything I've put out had that kind of a viral impact.
Well, some people have the gift of going viral than others.
Yeah, it does seem like that. That's all right. It's not my goal to go viral. It'd be nice, though. It'd be a nice little bonus.
Well, and I think, me and James have got big plans, like going forward, we might see about finding other like social media personalities and influencers, including a couple of
Mm-hmm.
people who some people here on Podbean are familiar with who've got like thousands of followers, like on TikTok and other places, and how the social media censors have been really, just aggressively going after them to the point that you get a lot of like the woke left and woke rhinos like mass reporting them to the point they're getting accounts banned, and then
Mm-hmm.
these people keep starting up new accounts until they get banned again. Because they apparently the censors don't like the kind of message that they're spreading, and
Ye-
and we just kind of get an idea of how social media influencers and personalities work and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely it is true. I've noticed, this could be an excuse, but I will say that, is I'm not as consistent on social media as I used to be, and a lot of that is just because it wore me out. Because I feel like there was a point where I put a lot of
Yeah.
work in, and I really tried to, I guess put a lot of eggs in that basket. But, um, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
People refer to what you call like the shadow ban, things like that, and I suspect.
Right.
I don't know for sure. Once again, this could be an excuse, but I don't put too much stock into it. But I would have to say that they're, I think they're to a degree. I think some of the stuff I've put out is kind of
Right.
shoveled under into the deck, so to speak. I don't know.
Right.
I could be wrong. Once again, it could be an excuse, but
Well, or
either
some
way, I
people
don't care too
probably
much.
right, or some people probably go into it thinking that they're going to become an overnight success, and then they of course are quick to discover that that it isn't always all that it's cracked up to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure, true. Like I
Which
said, I don't put a whole
yeah,
lot of weight into it, but it'd be nice for the sake of the show. That's all I really care about. It's just more people listening to the show,
because
or the most as possible. You know.
and I know you, Benji, are not gonna get like Joe Rogan or Megan Kelly or Ben Shapiro numbers in terms of like audio downloads or live audience
Hey.
participation or or any of that, but at least you're putting out something of substance and are willing to bring on people who are of like a similar point of view of yours or of opposite points of views, including some of your co-hosts.
Yeah, exactly. That's the name of the game. Is to put out.
Right.
Right. I'm not making a whole lot of money off this, so it is for the sake of putting it out. Is what
You're doing it as like a labor of
keeps the engine
love.
going. Yeah, correct. Exactly.
Uh-huh.
That being said, though, it'd be nice to.
Quality over quantity, yes.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
know also
Well,
the Slightly Serious Show
quantity.
might be looking at other returning guests as well, like the gentleman from the Free Think Institute, which is an LGBTQ plus like conservative nonprofit organization, and many people are like LGBTQ conservatives never heard of that or like
Yeah, that's.
how is that even possible? But
Uh
you
huh.
might have more like gay conservatives than you think.
No, yeah, it's a real thing. It's not. I mean, of course, it's a real thing. What I meant by that is that yes, there is definitely. It's not an overwhelming number, probably, but yes, I've from
They
occasionally
don't
they'll
identify
peak
as mainstream.
right, and I think part of that too is just there may be more than we know about just because of pressures within the community because it's that community aligns more or less with the left. So it's an uphill battle if you're somebody within that community that has viewpoints that don't align with that. So, you know, big up to anybody who speaks their mind from another place. So that's good. I like just for the set. I've never heard one word your guest has ever spoken, but I like the fact that I just like viewpoints that break the natural conventions because I think a lot of people limit their thinking 100% based on where they fall or what community they belong to. Just like what is it, Candace Owens, right? Like I don't agree with a lot of what she says, but I like that somebody like that exists because it's a for conventional purposes, kind of a dichotomy, right? Somebody, an African American woman with conservative views, for this, just for the sake of the fact that those viewpoints are coming from somebody outside of the general accepted
Mm-hmm.
categorization of a person. So it's always good to make sure that what you're thinking or what your beliefs are your own, right? Because I think a lot of times we get limited and not coerced, but influenced maybe too heavily on what our own community or what people around us may think, and not so much your own views. So anytime anybody's speaking their own views, right or wrong, it's probably positive in some degree, unless it's like hate speech. Obviously, that's not good. But free thinking's good.
I just had to, as my
Yeah.
other set of earbuds battery was going low,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
I'm
So you.
back, of course. But I mean, and I know like podcasts like this and many others are, seem to be like growing, of course, and people, of course, like tuning out corporate media, of course, because we feel like we have a place where we can have like unfiltered discussions like this and really talk to one another and and not have to fear like being like persecuted or attacked in any way because we don't
Hmm.
align with a certain set of beliefs.
Yeah. Exactly. Let me ask you a question. So I
And
had a.
go ahead.
Oh, oh yeah. No. What I was going to ask you. This is kind of off topic a little bit, but well, you know what? You had. It seemed like you had a thought you were going to finish. Go ahead and do that first, before I ask you the question.
Well, because we really value encouraging people to be free thinkers and think for themselves and not be letting certain influences like control how you can or should think.
Hmm. Yeah, it's true. What I was going to ask: have you ever had any in your life synchronicities?
I'm not
You know.
not sure what
You know.
synchronicities is supposed
You
to
know what
be.
I'm referring to? Okay. So things that sort of align, that coincidences, okay, that may happen is
Uh
the
huh.
best way I can describe it. Coincidences that may happen that seem to have no explanation, but in your own head, you know that it's not just random chance. You know, there's a little more to it. And it's hard to quantify.
Right.
There's no scientific proof for any things like these, but generally speaking, I think most people have encountered things similar. Have you ever had anything like that? For example, okay, like this is this
Can't.
is just a basic example. Let's say you were thinking of somebody specifically, and then 2 minutes later they call you. Things like that, right? You ever had anything like that?
That's been known to happen.
Yeah, it does. What are your thoughts on it? You think there's anything to that, or you think it's just confirmation bias?
I think there could be something to it, like maybe like a higher being that
Mm-hmm.
might have kind of like may have like pushed him to do something kind of like having an epiphany of some kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think the older I get, the more I kind of think that there's fields of energy, just like radio, right? There's waves going on. So we're actually internalizing and we're actually receiving input. We just don't categorize it in the normal way because it's not coming in the normal formats. Does that make sense? Like if somebody were to call me and say, "Hey, I'm going to be here at this place at this time.
Uh-huh.
These coordinates. I'm going to be there. You're going to meet me there." Boom. Okay. Cool. I know that because we both speak English, and whatever he was saying, he or she, it was in English. Therefore, I received it
Uh-huh.
as English, and I know what that means based on all the information I've collected in my life. So I knew exactly where to be. But there may be something, signals that we're receiving outside of that we actually internalize and we actually know, and we show up at that very reason. Let me give you an example. Before you came on, Eric, something happened to me today. So the night before, I just had it in my head I was going to go get coffee. I had to go downtown into the city earlier in the morning, so I was like, hey, while I'm down there, you know what? As a little pre-birthday treat, I'm gonna get some good. I'm a good big coffee drinker. I drink it black. I want to try a new place. Blah blah blah. Something that's gonna try to blow me away. So I texted a couple people, hey man, give me a recommendation. Nobody got back to me. All right, I'll pick my own. So I picked my own. Out of a city of 7 million people, I came within 5 minutes of a very close friend of mine who I used to play music with. Showed up within 5 minutes of me being there. He walked by. There was a split second. I'm like, is that? Wait, no, what? We both did the same thing. I went back inside to get a refill, and I said, hey, how the hell are you? Talked to him about 10 or 15 minutes. Not only that, to take it a step further, there was some common interest that we didn't realize about. So there may be some opportunities, so to speak. I don't want to get too into detail. But for the next 30 minutes, I was very blown away because that just all happened so perfect. And the odds of me running into somebody like that, like I said, are very, very slim. So that's
right.
I'm still kind of in awe. That's what I'm telling you right now, Eric. Yeah, nothing like that recently. A lot of things have been happening to me like that recently.
I haven't really had.
No.
Yeah, don't recall ever having anything like that most recently.
Oh, okay. Well, you're missing out because it's dope when it happens. But there's been random recently, like a couple people have messaged me out of nowhere that I haven't heard from in a long time. Just stuff like that has been happening very, very recently. So in other words, I'm trying to pay attention as much as I can and be receptive to those energies. Not to sound like too much of a woo-woo type of shit, but in other words, I'm paying attention. Like I said, there's something to that. So I don't know what the bigger message is, Eric. I don't know exactly if there's not some nice, neat summary to stamp on this. I'm just saying it's a thing. So when stuff like that happens, to all the listeners out there, pay attention. You never know. And I feel like the more you are receptive to it and the more you start walking down those paths and kind of not second guessing them, it sort of builds on itself. So I don't know. Just interesting. Let me see if I can get a story pulled up here. I do want to mention, and I think the guys will probably talk about this on our regular weekly episode, but we mentioned on episode 117 of the Skip the Noise podcast, Governor DeSantis from Florida flew a bunch of immigrants to Martha's Vineyard. Kind of a political sort of a fuck you move. The guys debated on, the merits of such an exercise. So I'm going to read an article from NPR, Eric, and we can kind of discuss this as we go. Migrants flown to Martha's Vineyard have filed a lawsuit against Governor DeSantis. So this is a follow-up on the story, like I said, that we brought to you last week on episode 117. A civil rights firm filed a federal class action lawsuit on Tuesday against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and others for transporting about 50 immigrants from San Antonio, Texas to Martha's Vineyard without shelter or resources to place. I think that's kind of the biggest issue. In other words, it's like you guys up there in your little northeast Martha's Vineyards, you guys don't have to deal with the immigration problem, but you're all big talk and blah, blah, blah. That's sort of the sentiment here, right? That's what this move is all about. Like, here we go, and we're going to put them right on your doorstep. Okay? That's obviously that's the move here. So the firm, Lawyers for Civil Rights, in conjunction with the migrant-led nonprofit Alianza Americas, filed a suit on behalf of the vineyard migrants and all similarly situated people who are fraudulently induced to travel across state lines by DeSantis in the state of Florida. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. It's just the specificity of that sentence is kind of makes me laugh. If you'll notice when Benji reads the news, there's very specific things that make me laugh that you might not pick up on right away, but I get a kick out of writing and kind of the nuances involved in people that are writers. Sometimes they have these egos, Eric, that they like to work into the writing, like they want to be seen. So I kind of get a kick. I find humor in things like that. So when I do read the news, it gets a little. I kind of pick it apart and find things in it that people might find odd, but nonetheless. The group told NPR in an email. In addition, Governor DeSantis, the lawsuit also named the state of Florida Department of Transportation Secretary Jared Perdue, and their accomplices as defendants. The legal action comes after Wednesday when nearly 50 migrants were taken on planes from San Antonio to Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, with a stop in Florida in between, of course. They arrived so they can get, and I got a spam call coming in on my phone. Oh, that I'm going to earmark that because I've got something to say about these spam calls. They arrived with no warning. Oh, I should have took it live. Son of Eric, I missed that opportunity. I hope they call back. They arrived with no warning, and the local community scrambled to provide food, shelter, and translation services. All power, honestly, to Martha's Vineyard community, because it sounds like they did try to do the right thing. As I say, what's going on over there? You sound like you're in an aquarium or something. You're swimming around in microphonic distortion. Okay. They arrived with no warning, and the local community scrambled to provide food, shelter, and translation services. Migrants say they were not told about their final destination, but were promised a chance at jobs and a better life. So, Eric, if you've got your audio situated there, do you got any thoughts on this kind of an exercise or this kind of a stunt?
I know missed some of what you said because I'm having to reset my Bluetooth because whenever I talk with the pod being run in the background, it's like it's like the audio I hear kind of shuts off and then I have to reset it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also sending you links like to that one TikToker that I found very interesting.
Oh, I appreciate that. I will.
Instagram.
Absolutely.
Because I'm sure you'll look at the gentleman's videos later.
Yeah, no, I will. I actually will. I'm interested to hear. So anyway, what I was talking about was,
and I'm sure you would probably you'd probably comment on his videos with words of support if you like what you're seeing.
if I liked what I was seeing, then yes, I would support it. However, I can't comment on that without seeing it because I don't know if I'd support it. You might be surprised what I support and what I. You never know what kind of angle I may take on something. You don't know if I'll support it or not, but maybe I will. So yeah, I will definitely check it out. But yeah, so what I was covering here, Eric, was this Ron DeSantis flying a bunch of immigrants from San Antonio and dropping them on the doorstep of Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard, in an attempt to make sure these people got what they needed, had to scramble some resources, get a bunch of translators together, find some housing options and things like that. So, I think the main reason to be critical here is like he's trying to prove a political point, but at the expense of actual real fucking humans. So I know we talked about it on 117 at great length, but I think this one's a little bit off the mark. I just using actual human lives. These are people. That's my kind of final take on that. I'm trying to see what else. What has been going on in your neck of the woods over there in Georgia? Any local stories?
Well, I mean, I haven't really paid too much attention to Georgia news. Right now, I'm in the middle of house sitting and pet sitting for family until Saturday.
Some age. That's good. That's a good
my
brother
and sister and their kids are away at the beach because they had fall break. Because of the school system in the county that they live in compared to the county they previously lived in.
They have fall break?
Well, like, normally fall break would fall like the first full week of October.
I was going to say, I've never heard of fall break.
kind of similar to spring break because
That's
a
what
lot
it
of the
sounds
school
like.
systems in Georgia adopted the balanced calendar system.
Oh, okay. So that's a Georgia thing. Yeah, I've never heard of that. Speaking of local news down here, one thing I wanted to bring up that just keeps on giving. I've mentioned many times on a Skip the Noise podcast the prevalence of alligators down here
Uh,
in these parts of Southeast Texas, the Houston region. But recently, man, it's ramped up a lot. They're catching massive gators, gators attacking people, people capturing them, people wrestling them and turning them into authorities. But they just caught a massive one, and these are all in different parts. Primarily suburban locations, but it's a little scary. These alligators are popping up. So I don't know if this is like a population spike or if there's environmental problems for this. So we did have a drought this summer for quite a long time, which is unusual down here. And, rain has kind of come back a little bit. So I don't know. I don't know the specifics of it. All I know is the gators are coming after us. They're everywhere. You got
right.
any gators over there in Georgia? I know you're pretty near. You're close to Florida.
Not really. I mean,
Not a lot.
down in Florida, I think you would have them, but here in Georgia, really not so much. Um, I think the only wild animals that would probably come around are like coyotes, maybe bears, but you would probably
Uh
find
huh.
those in like forest areas, like in North Georgia. But
Hmm.
but like when you get like south of Macon, you got like that they have an area called like the Gnat Line because when you go south of that, it's more prevalent with gnats than an area north of it.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, we definitely have them here. I've seen them in real life. There a couple of times I've mentioned on the show. I won't rehash that. One more thing I wanted to get into, and I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. I'll be honest with you. Probably nip it at maybe around the 40-minute mark here. But so an author that I treasure, um, Mexican Nostradamus. Recently, I know I not recently came across. But he sent something in the text thread that kind of got him all excited, and he started reading the book Valis by Phillip K Dick. This is something that I read long ago with a couple of friends of mine, and the subsequent sequels. But let me get to this article real quick because it's one of these things where when authors or any kind of artist is ahead of their time. In retrospect, you look back, you're
Hmm.
like, oh shit, man, they really called it. So this is one of those kind of things. So let me read. So Philip K. Dick, who is a brilliant author, a lot of his stuff has come into movies. Okay, so like Total Recall, Blade Runner. These are all film adaptations of his works. Also, there was a Man in the High Castle, which I think turned into like a television series. So he's very, very celebrated when it comes to, like I said, film adaptations, notable film adaptations at that. But anyway, definitely a notable author if you haven't heard of him. It's just a whole nother world. But anyway, Philip K. Dick theorizes The Matrix in 1977, declares that we live in a computer programmed reality. So now there's plenty of people, right, that subscribe to that theory. But here, let's get into exactly what specifically he was referring to. So in 1963, Philip K. Dick won the coveted Hugo Award for his novel The Man in the High Castle, beating out such sci-fi luminaries as Marion Zimmer Bradley and Arthur C. Clarke. Of the novel, The Guardian writes, nothing in the book as sorry if that was a little clunky. The way my page kind of was set up there. But anyway, nothing in the book is as it seems. Most characters are not what they say they are. Most objects are fake. The plot, an alternate history in which the Axis powers have won World War II, turns on a popular but contraband novel called The Grasshopper Lies Heavy. Written by the titular character, the book describes a world of an Allied victory, and in the veins of the worlds within worlds thematic, Dick's novel suggests that the book within a book may, in fact, describe the real world of the novel, or one glimpse through the novel's reality as at least highly possible. The Man in the High Castle may be Dick's most straightforwardly compelling illustration of the experience of alternate realities, but it is only one among very many. In the interview Dick gave while at the high-profile Metz science fiction conference in France in 1977, he said that, like David Hume's description of the intuitive type of person. He lived in terms of possibilities rather than actualities. Interesting. Dick also tells a parable of an ancient, complicated, and temperamental automated record player called the Cappard, which reverted to varying states of destructive chaos. The Cappard, Dick says, epitomized an indestructible, ultra-sophisticated universe, which was the habit of doing unexpected things. So isn't that interesting? Automated record player. So that's, 1977. It's funny what you just interpret as things like that, right? You use the technology of the time to sort of translate your narrative. In the interview, Dick roams over so many of his personal theories about what these unexpected things signify that it's difficult to keep track. However, at the same conference, he delivered a talk titled, "If You Find This World Bad, You Should See Some of the Others," in edited form above, that settles on one particular theory that the universe is a highly advanced computer simulation. The talk has circulated on the internet as, and you can look this up if you're interested for further review, did Phillip K Dick disclose the real Matrix in 1977? And this is sort of the subject of this speech is a topic which has been discovered recently and which may not exist at all. I may be talking about something that does not exist. Therefore, I am free to say everything and nothing. I, in my stories and novels, sometimes write about counterfeit worlds, semi-real worlds, as well as deranged private worlds, inhabited often just by one person. At no time did I have a theoretical or conscious explanation for my preoccupation with these pluriform pseudo-worlds, but now I think I understand. What I was sensing was the manifold of partially actualized realities lying tangent to what evidently is the most actualized one, the one that the majority of us, by consensus gentium, agree on. So that's just interesting, right, Eric? Because it is kind of dependent on what we say that we agree on, or the perceived reality of the general population. But within those, people have their own realities, right? So it is a fluid type of thing. What do you think about that? Are you, and not to say, oh, you think we're living in a matrix or not, because maybe it's not as simple as that. But have you ever given thought to that reality, that it could be?
Well, I mean, I try to be a very open-minded person. I think, is it possible? Maybe, but I mean, is it proven? I mean, I know I have yet to see it proven, but because proof and evidence are two different things.
Oh, for
You know,
sure.
because
I mean,
evidence you can produce, but proving something. Let's say like in a criminal case in court, for example, like when the prosecution proves their case against the defense, with the evidence they have, it's up to the jury to determine beyond a reasonable doubt whether defense is innocent or guilty. And what beyond a reasonable doubt means is did the accused have any sort of malice, meaning that they have the intent to like harm or kill, but
mm-hmm.
or like proving something is real, like I mean, like how real is it, or is it intended to help or hurt people?
Yeah, and all that jury really did was establish a vote, and
Uh-huh.
but that's still, but they get it wrong though, right? It's
Well,
regardless
well,
of,
yeah.
maybe more often than not, and the system is set up to where it prevents, at least theoretically, it's set up right to prevent those small percentage chances of something going awry. Generally speaking,
Uh-huh.
like I said, there's levels to it, and kind of checks and balances to produce the best result possible, but not infallible. There's no way to completely ensure infallibility when it comes to people, but all we have is people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'll say this: I remember I went and saw The Matrix in the theater when it came out, when it was fresh, and Keanu Reeves. And tying this back into the theme of the day, I had my little pre-birthday celebration on my own, flying solo down to Boomtown Coffee Shop on 19th Street in the Heights. Big up. I heard one time Keanu Reeves, Neo in The Matrix, if you don't know where I'm going with this, on his birthday. I don't know, maybe it's his 50th birthday or something. Dude definitely doesn't look 50. He's taking good care of himself, and by all accounts,
Well,
seems
he's
to be
almost
very,
60.
or almost or whatever the hell. I think it was his 50th birthday though.
That was back in
He went,
2014.
yeah, something like that. I don't know. I heard the story. I don't know exactly when it was, but I'm sure you're maybe familiar, or at least sounds like you might be familiar with it. He went to some little bakery, got one single cupcake, put a little candle in it, lit it, sat on the sidewalk and ate it. I don't know why, but
Oh my lord.
I got such a big kick out of that because it's like an exercise in like, who gives a fuck, right? Like, you know what? I care enough to somewhat celebrate the moment, but I don't want to go overboard. So there's some sort of weird balance there that I was drawn to. So I felt like that's what I was doing, and that's what compelled me to go on that journey this morning for no apparent reason, but there was a reason, right? Because I ran into somebody. And that's what I'm talking about, it just following those sort of streams of consciousness. Now, on the flip side, Eric, I could say that synchronicity happened because I am living in a computer simulation and it was pre-programmed. So that's where you get into the discussion of like where do those lines, the subjective reality, right? That everything really, there's definitive things, right? There's light and there's dark. The light's either on or it's off, okay? The binary system. But when it comes to perception and how we perceive reality, it's more fluid, and it's hard to say. It's hard to say. But I had my little Keanu Reeves like celebration with my coffee. It was fucking delicious. So 5-star.
Yeah.
Benji goes 5 stars on Boomtown Coffee on 19th Street in the Heights, right here in the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. And also, too, if you're familiar with Texas, there's a gas station chain, but we all know it's way more than that. It's called Buc-ee's.
Never
If you
heard
want a
of that.
delicious, no, you probably haven't because they don't have them in Georgia. You're unfortunate in that regard
Right.
because they're magnificent. Okay, they've got the cleanest bathrooms. They've got a line of their own snacks, all kinds of different beef jerky. They got these things called beaver nuggets. Eric, I'm telling you, if you ever come to Texas, if you don't go to Buc-ee's, there's something wrong with you because it's an experience. Some of them are. There's one by my house that's on the smaller side, but there's some that are massive. They look like truck stops, but there's no trucks allowed. They're normally, off the interstate, things like that, in between, travel destinations, so to speak. But they're massive. People wear T-shirts. It's a whole thing. My point in saying that is, I stopped in there. Like I said, there's one right next to my house. So on my way back, I decided to get a fountain drink, and I created something magnificent. They've got their own everything they have their own brand. They've got, like I said, the snacks, the fountain drinks. They've got their own, real sugar soda that they have there from the fountain drinks. Lemon lime Gatorade, okay, about 80 parts lemon lime Gatorade, and then 20% their cherry lime soda. It's outstanding, Eric. I got to tell you,
Oh, yeah.
outstanding beverage. Do you have any special? Is there any Georgia places like that? Is there anything that's native to Georgia that you
Nothing
guys
really
tout?
special. Um, I know like in a majority of states, I mean, people are always like familiar with like the 7-Eleven, and
Well,
we
yeah.
used to like I used to see like little like convenience store chains around called Golden Pantry, but I think those seem to be kind of disappearing. But I know like the only closest like 7-Eleven is like down in Florida or in South Carolina or Tennessee or North Carolina or somewhere. And I'm sure you have plenty of 7-Elevens out in Texas.
We do. We do have plenty. There's 7-Elevens are good. I feel like they had
Yeah.
I feel like recently they kind of had like they gave themselves like a shot in the arm because it seemed like they were kind of dead, at least here,
Uh-huh.
but they've made a resurgence, so to speak. But yeah, that's home of the Slurpee, right? Everybody knows
Right.
ices are kind of the universal one, but the specific Slurpee is 7-Eleven's own. but they do. They have good coffee selections there. They have there's a taco place within most of them. Forgot the name of it. Taco Laredo. But that may just be for the ones here. I don't know. We eat the fuck out of tacos here. But Buc-ee's is where it's at. If you ever come to Texas, Eric, I highly suggest going to Buc-ee's.
I think I just saw something about it being probably one of the largest truck stock stores in Texas by looking it up on Google.
Yeah, it's massive. And matter of fact, I think some
It's
people
located
have.
in Katy, I believe.
Yes, the Katy one is absolutely, which is just outside of Houston. It's massive. There's another one too in Waller, just up the road a clip from me. That's pretty gigantic as well. And when I tell you they've got, like, when I say gigantic, I'm not sure people could really grasp until you see it. This isn't like, this isn't your Shell station. This is like a full, like, truck stop size, like big truck stop size establishment, but it's not for trucks. It's only for regular passenger vehicles. But they've got their own, like I said, the merch, the T-shirts. They make. I'd be interested to know what they make per day or per week. It's absurd. It's absurd. It's a whole, yeah. I don't. It's one of those things like only in Texas. But anyway, yeah. So we touched on a little bit of Matrix stuff. Eric, we touched a little bit about political stunts. We touched on some of the stuff you've got going on, some guests, some free thinking, thinking outside the box, thinking beyond what your human category may be, having your own line of thoughts. I thank you again for participating in these live streams. You're kind of a mainstay at this point. I appreciate you calling in. It adds a little animation to the show. I like that. It's a little easier to navigate in the context of a live stream as opposed to the text, right? I always like people participating. Yeah, because I got to stop, read it. I appreciate you calling in.
Well, I co-host for this episode.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I want to say too, hopefully the pets that you're sitting right now are doing okay. What kind of?
Well, it's a ferret, a bearded dragon, and a betta fish.
Oh shit! Okay, so not your usual dog cat variety. So you've got some interesting exotics.
To have chihuahuas, but I know that the chihuahuas were getting kind of old, but they've all three are since passed away.
Oh well, rest in peace. Sorry to hear that. Chihuahuas are good dogs. I've had one in my lifetime. They're a lot. They've got a lot of energy, so it's a lot to deal with. Much like a small child, but so bearded dragon. That's interesting. What was it? Ferret. And betta fish.
And a betta fish.
Of those three, Eric, tell me which is your favorite.
I think I would probably say the bearded dragon because he mostly just stays in his little glass enclosure, And, I feed him lettuce leaves in the morning, and then about 6 o'clock in the evening, about a little under 2 hours from now, I'll be feeding him those little worms. They're not like grub worms, but they're like a little smaller to where he can eat them.
That's interesting.
And then the betta fish is fed every other day.
I've got kind of a sad story related to bearded dragon. So in my neighborhood, on the stop signs or the traffic signs, right? Every now and again, somebody will post like, lost cat, lost dog with the phone number. If reward, please call. If found, blah blah blah. So I saw one about a week ago, a lost bearded dragon. Okay, I don't know what the odds are of make. Yeah, I don't think that. I think so. If I really want to read into it, here's what I feel like happened. I feel like the bearded dragon was probably the daughter, right? The daughter was pictured on this the ad as well as the bearded dragon. I forgot the name, but they said if found, they described it right, and they had a picture. If found, call this number. Blah blah blah. Reward. Yeah, man, the odds of finding a fucking bearded dragon are probably pretty slim.
And then like the ferret, I hear it in one of the niece's bedrooms right now, just like beating on its cage, like wanting out. But he's pretty energetic. But Usually the only criticism about ferrets is
They
they're
stink,
not
right?
the most the pleasant smelling creatures in the world.
No. Matter of fact, like that's part of their whole thing, right? Is to stink. Like it's part of their.
Yeah. Well, I think with that body odor, they know how to keep predators away.
Yeah, that's a good self-defense mechanism. Hopefully, so who wins in the wild? Like, well, probably the. What I got like 30 questions at once. Let me just stop with this one. What do you feed the ferret? What does it eat?
Well, the ferret eats kind of like a kibble food that's meant for them, and then has like a
Mm.
bottle of water, and then these little cheap things that I feed them like once a day to where they don't stink as bad.
Oh, okay. Do you give? Do they get treats, or does he get a treat?
I mean, they do get treats, yes. I
Are
know the
they?
ferret, if you were,
Yeah,
loves to play,
I bet. Do they have
but
inside? Do you let it out like to run around the house, or would
just
you
in the
never find it
bedroom, don't
again?
don't let it run out of the house. No way,
Yeah, you'd
don't let
never
it run
see it
around.
again, right? It's not like a dog where they'd come back. They'd be off on their own, huh? Does it have any kind of discernible personality, or is it just like pebble brain? If you feed it, it's all good. If not, it gets pissed. Is there any kind of?
I would probably say somewhere in there, but I haven't been around it to be familiar with its like behavioral patterns, like I would a cat or a dog.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Well, good. Well, good luck with that. I am about to wrap it up. Once again, thank you for your
Well, great
participation
having
before.
me on.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for all your opinions. And one more time before we get out of here, you got any? I know you do. Send this slightly serious. If you want to promote uh, any shows or
Well,
any.
if well, I'll be glad to do like some show promos. You probably edit this out for like published shows. If you are interested in checking out some really great podcasts here on Podbean, um, we have a great roster of content creators, and independent voices and thinkers, and people who just want to put a smile on your face and make your day and your life worthwhile. You have the Slightly Serious Show that'll be on tonight and every weeknight at about 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 8:30 p.m. Central. You've also got the Ralph William podcast. He's usually on mornings around 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. Central. Plus, you can find Ralph over on WESN's Epic Strategies Network. And you've also got the Old Man's podcast weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, which is 9 a.m. Central. You've also got the Beans and Weenie Show Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays around 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central. Plus their Club Code Blue Music Show Fridays around 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. You've also got Big Daddy Al's podcast Friday through Sunday around 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Flicks and Friends Saturdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, as well as Solid Blue Sisters, My Turn to Talk, Monday through Thursday around 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. And then in prime time, I believe Jester of the It's Doomsday podcast is exploring like a scheduling change from Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central to perhaps Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. But
Good.
but if anything changes, we'll keep you posted on that one. Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, you have a comedy podcast called the Potluck Podcast. If you're interested in Great Mouse, but if you're interested in news and commentary, you can go to Slacker 82 Alpha with Maverick and Goose also on at that same time. And then Fridays, you've got This Swap Doesn't Lie at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Nightly, Russ with the Outside of Normal podcast around 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. And of course, additional podcasts like The Gray Area and like Tampa Bay and Milk Dog 2020, the Dina Joe podcast, um, Laura's Communication Station and Pink Squirrel, um, and then other hangout shows with like Elgato and Video Game Connection and Humble Idiot podcast. Kathy Caps from over in England and Linga Longa, entertain you with like music creaming and um, the Kirkley Hennessy Show, and that list just goes on and on. And the Holy Shift podcast with Poetic, that's another good one.
Very
And
good. Well,
and of course the Skip the Noise podcast
there you
that
go.
Benji and the gang encourage friends to hit that follow or subscribe button, whether you're listening here on Podbean or over on Spotify, Pandora, Apple iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, what have you, and and you'll get notifications when the show goes live on Podbean and when published shows get uploaded, and and also the social media presences and so much more.
That's right. Well, thank you for all that, Eric. And like he said, if you want to join in to these Podbean live streams, download that Podbean app, subscribe to Skip the Noise podcast, and you will get notified when I decide to drop these. They're kind of random. It's just whenever I have time. So once again, thank you for joining, Eric. If you want to follow Skip the Noise podcast, if you're joining this from other regions, if you don't follow us on Instagram, go to @skip_the_ skip_the_noise_podcast, on Twitter @skipthenoisepO1. Thank you again, Eric, for joining, and everybody
And
take care. We will see you. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Facebook, TikTok. So just search up Skip the Noise podcast on those avenues and you will see us. But until then, we'll see you on the next episode. And once again, try to look out for those live streams. So get that Podbean app, if for no other reason than to having access to jumping on. And you can be just like Eric and call in and be a part of the show as he does time and time again. So thanks again. Everybody have a good one. Bye.